This is the KhoodeelaarTV television channel broadcasting on the internet under the baby angel Geronimo Manifesto banner. Baby angel Geronimo is the alpaca symbolizing the fight for justice and the truth against the criminals at the United Kingdom Central Government Department called DEFRA. Baby angel Geronimo was invited to the United Kingdom from New Zealand, where he was born and raised, by a woman called Leonie Walker. Baby angel Geronimo arrived in South Gloucestershire in England at the invitation of his new mum, Helen MacDonald. We started broadcasting and publishing and posting in defense of baby angel Geronimo and against the criminals at DEFRA in the summer of 2021, and we shall continue. Baby angel Geronimo is the witness comparable to the angels who sit on each shoulder of human beings, recording all the behavior, conduct of human beings for presentation as evidence at the day of judgment. Baby angel Geronimo is a God's blessing, and baby angel Geronimo, we love him, and baby angel Geronimo is loved by thousands of people, if not hundreds, across the world. Baby angel Geronimo is a symbol of the fight for justice against the criminals controlling the United Kingdom government and populating the United Kingdom Parliament and operating the completely shallow, corrupt, cruel British press, the media, and of course the corrupt, criminal, unjust British judiciary. Baby angel Geronimo is the representative in the struggle. The representative in the struggle for truth and justice of all the babies of all species who have been targeted and who are targeted by the UK criminals in the 4 sections that I have described. The death of the 2 horses reported in the last, I think, week highlights again the urgent need to stop horse racing and stop abusing horses by human beings. The admission by the mental slave Rishi Sunak that the United Kingdom aircraft joined the USA aircraft as backups for the Zionist Israeli state, allegedly to down these hundreds of drones that were sent from Iran. The admission confirms what the president of the Zionist state has said, that the attack on Israel by the drones sent by the Iranians means it is a war. And Grant Shapps, the proven liar, the hocus pocus defense secretary in the United Kingdom, has also added his voice, saying that this is escalating a war. What this means is that they don't consider the genocidist murders of children, women, and other people in Palestine by the Zionist state as amounting to war. Notice the criminal's hypocrisy and lying and brazen dishonesty and distortion of language. The distortion of language is also evident in the British criminals, that is, the British establishment, the British state, the criminal British state's endorsement of the attacks on the rights of Angela Rayner over housing and right to buy option that had been created by the liar, the evilness, Margaret Thatcher. Housing is, of course, mistreated, misrepresented by criminals who have taken control of what used to be called the Spitalfields Housing Cooperative in the Brick Lane area. The Spitalfield Housing Cooperative was set up in the 1980s, well, late 1970s and early 1980s, to address the urgent housing needs felt by the local people. The potential beneficiaries clearly were Bangladeshis, because the Bangladeshis were the main sufferers of lack of housing. I campaigned for housing rights, not in the name of the Spitalfield Housing Cooperative, but for the recognition of the housing needs. The campaign that I have been fighting, conducting and coordinating for housing rights has gone on since the 1960s in Tower Hamlets. And the latest criminal behavior by Bangladeshi origin abusers of the what used to be called the Spitalfields Housing Cooperative, now known as Housing Association. This actually exposes the corruption that actually takes hold whenever in the so-called, what used to be called the inner cities, people of Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Indian origin were given significant financial support by the UK state. When Al-Tabali was murdered by a racist aided and abetted by a mental slave of West Indian Caribbean origin on the 4th of May 1978 in Whitechapel, the spite and the incitement against the likes of Al-Tabali had already been fueled by the racists operating in areas like Tower Hamlets, where the racists wanted to intimidate, unsettle, and scare the people that had just begun to make home in Tower Hamlets and similar areas. Housing was very, very scarce. And when we responded to the attack on Al-Tabali, which attack was followed in July in Hackney by the racists murdering Ishaq Ali, another Bangladeshi. The racists wanted to distort. Racists included the local MP in the case of Al-Tabali's constituency, called Peter Shaw, at an event, at a meeting held in the Toynbee Hall, attended by Peter Shaw. Peter Shaw refused to start the meeting until, as he demanded, I left the gathering. I had never had any meeting with him until that time. I had never physically seen him until that time. So obviously he had known the potential character of the representation that I would be making. So he said that according to him, I should leave the meeting. Apart from me, I don't think there was anyone else that Peter Shaw objected to. And the people that were there around the table in a small room were mostly Bangladeshis, almost all of them Silotis. And not one of them objected to Peter Shaw insulting me or abusing me. So these are some of the people that have in the years, decades that have passed since 1978, made all kinds of claims that they oppose racism after the racist murder of Al-Tabali. That is a lie. 5 years before the racist murdered Al-Tabali in Whitechapel, which is very near Brick Lane, the spot is very near Brick Lane. The now Murdoch-owned, Dirty Digger Murdoch-owned Sunday Times, Color magazine, ran an anti-Siloti, anti-Bangladeshi article in the Color magazine dated the 2nd of December 1973. I mobilized the campaign against the Sunday Times magazine. I translated that article and I made the interpretations, the implications for the whole community of that attack. It only took place less than 2 years after the people in the United Kingdom, coming from Silot, played a significant part in rallying, calling for international support for Bangladesh that needed to be recognized. The Bangladesh idea was there. It wasn't established until the 16th of December 1971, but the Silotes played the leading role, including members of my family who were resident in the United Kingdom and in Tower Hamlets as well. So when the Sunday Times article, Byline to a Criminal Prostitute, called Leslie Garner, claimed that the Silotes refused to support Bangladesh, it could not be further from the truth. So the liars have continued to lie against the Bangladeshis, against the Silotes. And there was no sign. There was no sign of anyone else who claimed to be, quote, community leader, leader of the community, the Bangladeshi community, supporting the campaign that I mobilized against the Sunday Times article. In fact, those who did claim that they were supporters of Bangladesh in 1971 and that they actually solidarized with the idea of Bangladesh against the attacks by the Pakistan army. They organized a gathering in 1973, I'm talking about, at the Toynbee Hall, the same Toynbee Hall, not in the same room as Peter Shore's racist gathering 5 years later in 1978, but they organized a meeting at the meeting hall at the Toynbee Hall, at which they attempted to justify the Sunday Times article. Can you believe that? But they did. So we, under my initiative, we broke that meeting up. But that meeting was attended by Tasadduq Ahmad, Tayyibur Rahman, and others. Can you believe that they were supporting, openly supporting, an attack by an English newspaper that had denounced the Bangladeshi, the Silotes, wrongly for allegedly not supporting the cause of Bangladesh in 1971, less than 2 years previously. So when these criminals talk about Mukti Juddho or liberation war, and they talk about the Shadinotar Chetona, the awareness, consciousness of independence, they have no clue as to what they're talking about. Literally were yards from where Al-Tabali was murdered, the morons have erected a completely offensive diversion from the struggle against the racist attack. Now there is a thing called the Ekushe Memorial. This is supposed to be about Bengali language, but the date that they have been worshipping since 1952 and continuing is not Bengali at all. It's a date on the Georgian, the Gregorian calendar. So this mental slavery actually festers. There is a description on the wall of the Al-Tabali Park, which gets the date, the year wrong about Al-Tabali's murder. And I have pointed this out for years. And this error constitutes an outrageous disrespect and disregard for the campaign against racism and also to the memory of Altawali. And this was done by the local Tower Hamlets Council. And despite the fact that I've been pointing this out, Tower Hamlets Council has not corrected that. So the corruption, the criminals taking over the Spitalfields housing cooperative is part of the absolute blanket criminality and ignorance and stupidity by the Bangladeshi morons that claim to be the leaders of the movement against racism. They are not. When Freak Dondi, a fire worshipping, anti-Siloti, anti-Muslim moron from India, wrote a series of books, so-called, by exploiting the Bangladeshi community in Tower Hamlets, nobody, not a single one of the criminals, even showed any awareness, let alone object to, let alone protest against the criminal Freak Dondi. When the BBC Two channel, an anti-Siloti, anti-Bangladeshi four-parter called King of the Ghetto, I had to mobilize the protest against that. No one else. So there is a ongoing campaign defending the community every single day, and it's being done by me. And I've been doing it physically for 52 years from Tower Hamlets, from the east end of London. And I've been doing it originally for longer than 52 years, since the June 13, 1963 foundation of the movement defending the community in the east end of London. We shall be talking about all of those in updated forms. Just a reference to O.J. Simpson, who has died recently and whose role has been extensively mentioned in the British press, but all negative. I don't have any evidence as to whether O.J. Simpson did murder those two. But what the British press, the media, have been doing is to take for granted the neutrality which doesn't exist, the objectivity of the United States judicial system. And O.J. Simpson, being a mental slave himself, he didn't focus during the trial, his trial for the murder of Nicole Brown and her lover. He didn't actually point this out, the racism of the American judiciary, the imperialism of the British American judiciary. Now, yesterday, Sunday Times carries a piece by Ruby Wax, an American prostitute who is been given platforms for the BBC and the other media, who says that the heading on the front page trailer says that O.J. Simpson threatened to stab her. But when you read the actual piece, it was nothing to do with stabbing her at all. O.J. Simpson was, as she says, talking in riddles. And he was playing with a banana on his head. Now, how can he or anybody put a banana on their head and that constitute, according to Ruby Wax, they are threatening to stab somebody they are talking to? There's a physical impossibility and stupidity. And it's out of context because when the British mainstream media talking about O.J. Simpson, they don't talk contextually about the racist American judiciary, nor do they compare the British counterpart, corresponding racism of the British judiciary, the British legal system, the British law schools. We shall be updating on all of those in due course. This is just under 27 minutes at 06:51 hours GMT on Monday, the 15th of April 2024.